Alrighty, so all the match from match day number 2 of the group stage is in the books, and we are now about to get to the point of the group stage of the World Cup where it's pretty much like a break time for all these teams that are still in, and in fact, it's going to set up a very epic match day 3 in the group stage, because coming out of match day 2 of this group stage, we only have 3 teams that were able to advance into the next round, and only 2 of them have been officially eliminated from the World Cup. So yeah, there's still a lot of teams that is in it, and it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to go. But in terms of today's action, well, if you like golf, today was definitely the day to enjoy some World Cup action. In fact, the first 2 games pretty much is where the fireworks begin, and that includes the first game that I'm going to talk about, which is Cameroon versus Serbia, and this is easily the most entertaining game of the World Cup. Well, actually, I say easily, but then in the next game I'll talk about between South Korea and Ghana. That was also very entertaining. But this one, my God, there was a lot of momentum swing that happened in this one, and there was a lot of chances in this one, and in the end, it ended in a free draw between both of these teams. They mentioned early that Serbia have not scored in 270 minutes. Little do we know that, of course, would change in a big way. But before that, Mitrovic did hit it high off the header before he struck the post from close range. It was a great game from Alexander Mitrovic, and you could argue that he probably could have had a hat trick in this one, because he missed some big opportunity in this one. Kostic then puts it into the stands from close ranges. I thought Serbia was knocking on the door early for the goal. That would not last, because in the 17th minute, the first shot for Cameroon came as Nukolo would blast it high from long range. And then in the other end, Mitrovic, I thought he should have scored here. I mean, he missed an absolute sitter from 10 yards out there, and this would also be a theme throughout the game, where it was end to end. It was back and forth between both of these teams. I mean, the way I watched this game, it felt like I was watching an El Tráfico match between LAFC versus the LA Galaxy, with the way that there's times where this game turns into a track meet, and that both of these teams were getting so many chances. But then in the 19th minute, Milinkovic-Savic would deny Kunda in the near post. And again, Cameroon, they have definitely got a foothold into this game, and now they were the one that were looking for the opening goal, and they do. It's Castilito that scored here to give Cameroon a 1-0 lead. What a big moment that is for Juan Charles Castilito, because that is actually his first career international goal for Cameroon. I don't remember the last time we have seen a player score his first career international goal for his country in a World Cup, but when it happened, what a way to score it. What a time to score your first ever international goal for your country. And yeah, like I said, Cameroon was leading 1-0, and the momentum was definitely with them as they dictate the plays and were looking for the second goal. But Serbia eventually regained control of this game, and they started to add some question again in this Cameroon back line like they did early in this one. Milinkovic-Savic then denied Kunda, but gets it right back, but he puts it wide. But then in the first minute of stoppage time, Serbia equalized. It's Petrovic that scored from Tadic to make it 1-1 in this game. Not long after, Serbia turned this game on its head. It's Milinkovic-Savic, not the goalkeeper, the outfield player, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic here, scoring from Zivkovic to make it 2-1 in favor of Serbia. The Serbian fan was just erupting. I mean, this was really a game where I would say that throughout this World Cup, there's been times where it's been you can tell that it's heavily favored in terms of one specific fan base that kind of took over the game. Not so much in this one. I thought it was kind of half and half. I mean, there was definitely a lot of Serbian fans in this one, but there's also a lot of Cameroon fans in this one. But the Serbian fans was definitely in delight when that goal went in from Milinkovic-Savic. But yeah, because yeah, I mean that they turned the game on its head in a span of 2 minutes, and they were trying to go for a third one. Mitrovic had a shot that was deflected, and it goes wide, and the momentum was all with the Serbs. Like Cameroon, they looked like completely rattled. They didn't know what hit them with a way that they looked like they were heading to halftime with a 1-0 lead, and all of a sudden they find themselves 2-1 down heading into the second half. And in the second half, the momentum from Serbia continued as Ipasi would deny Tadic when as the flag, of course, went up. So even if Tadic scored that, it wouldn't have counted. Again, momentum was still with Serbia as they were looking for a third goal. And they do. In the 53rd minute, it's Mitrovic. And I think Mitrovic deserve a goal here because he's been working so hard to score in this one. And he deserved his, or he finally got his goal here in the 53rd minute as he scores from Zivkovic to give Serbia a 3-1 lead. And you're thinking, well, game over, right? Well, not exactly, because in the 57th minute, Choupo-Moting would then try to head it in to get one back, but he just missed it after the ball was coming into the box. Tagging Inkambi then hits one right to Milinkovic-Savic, and then Milinkovic-Savic, and this is Serki Milinkovic-Savic, tried to chip it over Ipasi, but he missed that one high. But then in the 63rd minute, Cameroon gets one back. It's Abubakar scoring from Castelletto to make it 3-2 in favor of Serbia. Now, originally, this goal was disallowed for offside, but they go to VAR to see whether or not if this call should be overturned, and they did. And I think it was the right call because, you know, on frame, it looked like Abubakar maybe was in an offside position, but then when you look at it closely, it looked like he was just onside. I mean, in fact, you know, Abubakar himself, he didn't even celebrate. He knew that he was caught in an offside position, so I'm pretty sure he's probably even more shocked the fact that that call got this allowed, and that maybe later on the replay he'll be very happy the fact that he absolutely timed the run perfectly, because that Serbian backline just completely stopped, thinking that the flag would came up, and originally it looked like it came to a rescue, only for VAR to turn against them. And it gets worse for Serbia because in the 66th minute, Cameroon would tie the game up. It's Choupo-Moting scoring from Abubakar to tie the game up at 3 apiece. And I just think is this a World Cup after dark, even though this game is taking place in the day? I mean, I guess maybe it's still World Cup after dark because, you know, in the West Coast it's like 3 in the morning, and that this game is just absolutely drunk. Like, it was just crazy of how much the momentum changes, and that just as you thought that maybe this was going to happen, this game throw a late twist into it. And the game continued to become end-to-end. Like, both of these teams was pushing to try to get that fourth goal. I mean, there could be a time where, you know, even though this game ended 3-3, it could have easily ended like 4-4, even 5-5 between both of these teams. Ipasi then denied Mitrovic his second in Serbia the lead again before Sergei Milinkovic-Savic would puts it high from close range. And then Abubakar would look for his second, but he hits one right to Milinkovic-Savic. And then on the other end, Mitrovic would puts one over the bar before Ipasi had to deny Mitrovic again in the first minute stoppage time. I mean, I told you, Mitrovic, he could have had a hat-trick in this one with the amount of chances that he got. Although even if he scored it, it wouldn't have counted in this latest play because the flag went up. But yeah, in the end, in just a crazy game between both of these teams, it ends in a 3-3 draw between Cameroon and Serbia. Shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 13 that Cameroon has, 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that Serbia has, 8 shots off target compared to 2 that Cameroon has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Serbia has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to the 40% possession that Cameroon has in this game. Yeah, wild game between both of these teams, but in the end, it really does not help either of these team in terms of their chances of moving on into the next round, because, you know, for Serbia, I believe they still have to well, actually for Serbia, I think they play against Switzerland, and Cameroon of course play against Brazil, and that, you know, both of these teams, they're gonna still have a chance to move on to the next round, but I know for sure one of them will not move on because of the mathematic. And that I think you can also sense that the reason why both of these teams were really going for it is that because they desperately need 3 points. I mean, after the opening days, neither of these teams were able to get a result. You saw a side in both of them trying to get the win to get themselves back into it, but they weren't able to do so. But it definitely give the neutrals a lot to talk about, and just again, this was probably one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining game that we saw in this tournament. But that being said, moving on in the next match, and speaking of an entertaining game, so I said that, you know, earlier this game between Cameroon and Serbia was probably easily the most entertaining game in this tournament. Well, South Korea and Ghana basically said, hold my beer, because they decided to also play in a drunk fest kind of game where momentum was pretty much not a thing in this one, and and that and just as you thought that you might have known something, maybe one team won it, the other team basically stormed back and make this game very interesting. Now early on, Minjae would had a long range effort that was deflected and goes wide. As I thought South Korea dictate the play early. They won a lot of corner. I mean, up to I think around 5 corners inside just the first 15 minutes of this game, and were piling on the pressure early. Cho had a header that was deflected, but it goes wide from the corner. But then in the 24th minute, it's Ghana, the one that gets the opening goal. It's Salisu, the one that gives Ghana a 1-0 lead completely against the run of play, because up to that point, it was pretty much all South Korea. And that, speaking of South Korea, it was not a great set piece defending from them. Like, yeah, that was just a great header from Salisu, but you gotta question the fact that the defending there was not good whatsoever. And in the 34th minute, it gets worse for South Korea because Ghana would take a 2-0 lead. It's Kudus scoring from IU to make it 2-0 in favor of Ghana. They mentioned Ghana has never lost when they score first in the World Cup. I mean, to be fair, they only let first in the World Cup only 5 times in their country history. But yeah, that's definitely a great omen for Ghana, and definitely not a great moment for South Korea, knowing the fact that they could be up against it because they're trailing in this one. In the 37th minute, Cho Win Kwon would fire one that was tipped over by Ateziki, but the flag went up, so even if that went in, it wouldn't have counted. South Korea, I thought they continued to dominate possession, but I just feel like they're playing a little bit too safe. Like, at times, they maybe move the ball a little bit too slowly on the attacking end and just decide to play those safe passes instead of maybe trying to be a little bit risky. Players from the South Korean attack weren't really making those risky runs and maybe kind of gamble trying to make the runs forward as they should be. Though they did had another chance in the 45th minute as Jung Wei Young would fires it wide from long range, and despite the fact that South Korea were the better team in the first half, Ghana has a 2-0 lead over South Korea. Now in the second half, Lamptey would pulls it high as he was slipped on the turf there, and that definitely plays a big factor because Terry Lamptey just didn't really get that footing right to put this one on target. Atezigi then denied Cho on the header in the front post, and I thought it was starting to become end-to-end in the second half. Like, I thought both of these teams was really pushing early to try to get that second half goal, and it turns out South Korea is the one that gets the early opening goal in the second half, as Cho Gwon-soon would score from Lee Kang-ju to give life for the South Koreans, and then 4 minutes later, they would tie the game. And it's that man again, Cho Gu-sung, scoring this time from Kim Jun-soo to tie the game up at 2 apiece for South Korea. The South Korean fans was going absolutely nuts. I mean, they were making a lot of noises in this one. And again, this is another game where, like this one, it was kind of almost 50-50 split between the Ghanaian fans and the South Korean fans. But yeah, you know, the South Korean fans, they definitely made a lot of noise, and they were in pure elation when they saw their team went from 2-0 down to now tied the game up at 2 apiece. But those elation that they suffer quickly came to an end, because in the 68th minute, Ghana retake the lead. It's Kudus scoring from Williams to give Ghana a 3-2 lead, and it feels like it's World Cup after dark again. Like, it just feels like defense was not a thing, and both teams was just playing free-flowing soccer with the amount of goals that we were getting. And they also mentioned this is the first time that Ghana has scored 3 goals in the World Cup, which is kind of interesting because I thought for sure that they have scored at least 3 goals in one of the World Cup games. But no, this is the first time that they score 3 in the World Cup. Though in the 75th minute, Ateziki did deny Lee Kwon Jin on the free kick. There was a huge shout for a handball for South Korea that was not given. Sung then had a volley shot that was clear off the line. And again, for the second game in a row, I thought Sung Hyun Min didn't really had a good game for South Korea. He was kind of largely invincible for South Korea in this one. But one thing that was not invincible is South Korea throwing the kitchen sink. Like, they were pushing hard to try to get this equalizer. Ghana was just holding on for dear life. Kim Jun-soo would then blast it high from 10 yards out. There was actually 10 minutes of stoppage time, which yeah, it just kind of sums up this World Cup in a nutshell. Where it just there's a lot. There's been games where there's just ridiculous amount of stoppage time in both half play, especially second half of stoppage. And in the ninth minute of stoppage time, Atiziki had to deny Cho on the front post there. That's kind of a little bit embarrassing. The fact that I couldn't even read my hand right there for a second, but yeah, Atiziki, the Ghanaian goalkeeper, played a very good game in this one, and that we made one last big save here to deny South Korea a chance to kind of make the similar scoreline that we saw in the early game, and in the end, Ghana able to hold on to get a 3-2 win, and the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 7 that Ghana has, 3 shots on goal compared to 7 that South Korea has, 5 shots off target compared to 4 that Ghana has, no shots that was blocked compared to 10 that Korea has, and or South Korea has, gotta be careful saying that, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that Ghana has in this game, and I also think you can safely say that this was also one of those games where one team was just being a little bit more clinical of their finishing, and the other team wasn't, though you could kind of argue that maybe that's not the case, because South Korea did at least score a couple of goals in this one, but they're going to be definitely be thinking about all those missed chances that they have, and now they have a really daunting task in the next game against Portugal, whereas for Ghana, they now sit in a very good position, and a position where they're looking to try to get revenge, because their next opponent is against Uruguay, and if you know anything about that match and know what happened in that 2010 World Cup in that infamous quarterfinal match, Ghana has not forgot about that, and that that they definitely want revenge against Uruguay in that infamous handball that Luis Suarez basically committed, and then Ghana, of course, missed the penalty in the 120th minute. So that should be a very spicy game to see, especially a chance for Ghana to, of course, get a result in that one to move on into the next round. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, it's Brazil versus Switzerland, and I gotta say, for Switzerland, they were hard done in this game, because I think they almost play a perfect game in this one against Brazil, where they basically decided to kind of defend for majority of this game, and they did a great job in terms of doing so, because Brazil, they weren't really getting a lot of chances in this one, and the Swiss were really limiting all those world-class attacker that Brazil has, because early on, actually, I thought it was Switzerland the one that had most of the possession, and that's kind of unexpected, because I thought Brazil was going to be the one that dictates the play, and in fact, I feel like maybe they were trying to get a feel into this game, which eventually they did, but by the time they got a feel into this game, they then find out that, that Swiss backline is going to be a really tough one to crack, because they just really couldn't get anything going forward on the attack. The final ball and the final third play from Brazil was missing. Though Sommer did deny Vinicius from close range. I almost said Valencia there. It's Vinicius Jr. there for Brazil. So that Sommer was able to deny. And then Rafinha hits one right to Sommer. And the shots were 4-0 in favor of Brazil through 40 minutes. But again, besides those shoot chances I mentioned, that was really it for Brazil's attack in the first half, as we head to the halftime whistle scoreless between both of these teams. Now, in the second half, Brazil continued to dominate possession, but still no way past the Swiss defense. Like I said, the Swiss defense, they really put a masterclass of how you can defend in this one. They were just shutting down these Brazilian world-class attacker over and over again. Richarlison then tried to stab one in from a dangerous cross, but just couldn't quite do it. But then in the 64th minute, Brazil thought that they got the breakthrough, as Vinicius would put the ball into the back of the net. Oh, excuse me there. But the goal was disallowed, because the reason why the goal was disallowed was because Richarlison was in an offside position when he decided to come back for the ball. And it was the right call, because when you look on the replay, when that ball was passed, and I don't know which Brazilian player that was, but it didn't really get to him, and because of the fact that he didn't touch it, that means that still counts as a pass to one of your teammate. And when Richarlison decided to get back to try to get to that one, he was already in an offside position. So great call by the referee and the VAR crew, something that we have not had a lot throughout this tournament. But yeah, that of course disallowed the goal for Brazil, but nevertheless, Brazil continued to push to try to get that elusive opening goal, and they do. It's Casemiro in the 83rd minute to scoring from Rodrigo to give Brazil a 1-0 lead. And also, by the way, I will also say that in this game, I wonder, Brazil in terms of the way that they play in this one, I wonder were they feeling a little bit pressure because there was a lot of Brazilian legend that attend this game, like guys like the original Ronaldo, R9, Roberto Carlos, Kaká, and all those kind of Brazilian legend was in attendance. So you wonder maybe some of these Brazilian players might feel that pressure that, oh, here's some of the most legendary Brazilian player is in attendance. They need to, of course, perform well, and sometimes maybe they kind of just overplay it because they feel that pressure of putting on a perfect performance. I mean, at the same time, I feel like you could say kind of the same thing anytime when these players put on a Brazilian shirt, because there's a lot of pressure in terms of playing for Brazil, and also not to mention they still desperately miss Neymar, who it's hard to believe, but he still haven't played a single minute in this World Cup because he's been dealing with a thigh injury. But that being said, they eventually did get that breakthrough, and then in the 87th minute, Rodrigo, who of course was on the assist chart of the goal, he was trying to ice it for Brazil, but he was denied by Sommer in the 87th minute. But in the end, Brazil able to scrape a 1-0 win against Switzerland. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 6 that the Swiss had. No shots on goal for the 5 that Brazil has. 2 shots off target for the 3 that Brazil has. And 5 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Switzerland has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Switzerland has in this game. It was not pretty from Brazil, but, in the group stage kind of game, it doesn't really matter how pretty it needs to be. As long as they get the 3-point Brazil at the end, that is all they'll take, and that they also now becoming the second team to move on into the round of 16 after getting this win against Switzerland. But now moving on into the next match and talk about the third team that is able to move on into the knockout round of the World Cup, and that would be Portugal. Though just like Brazil, this was definitely not an easy matchup against Uruguay, and that in some way I would say that they had more resistance that they had to face against their opposition compared to where Brazil did against Switzerland, because Uruguay, they had their chances in this one. They'll definitely be looking back at this game thinking that if they would have put away the chances, they would have at least got a point out of this game. Early on, Olivier would had a long range shot that was put over the bar before Fernandez puts it wide from long range, and then on the other end, Jimenez would heads it high on the corner, and then João Felix had a shot that was deflected and goes wide in the 15th minute, as both teams getting some good half chances for the opening goal of this game. Ronaldo did try to get the opening goal for Portugal, but his free kick hits top of the wall and goes out. Another one of those kind of star-studded kind of free kick where there was a lot of hush that was around the Lusail iconic stadium, because here comes Cristiano Ronaldo, a chance to score on the free kick. And as we have seen so many times, whenever there's like a big name player takes the free kick, most of the time it has kind of come up to be a disappointing where the shots isn't even anywhere close in terms of being on goal. But that being said, possession was heavily in favor of Portugal, but again, they just have no way through this Uruguay brick wall of a defense that they were putting in. Then in the 33rd minute, and it's actually not Acosta, it's Costa. It's Diogo Costa. That's the Portuguese goalkeeper's name. He denied Bentancur from close range before Bentancur had a chance in the 36th minute to try to tap it in the back post, but he wasn't able to do so. And despite being outpossessed, I thought Uruguay has been the better side with some of the better chances, at least in the last 20 minutes, and it looked like they had a chance to get the opening goal in this one, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, João Felix would hit one into the side netting, but then in the 54th minute, Portugal would get the opening goal. It's Bruno Fernandes scoring from Guerrero to give Portugal a 1-0 lead. Originally, this goal was given to CR7, but apparently they feel like Ronaldo didn't really kind of make any contact in terms of heading that one. And I think there was definitely a lot of talking point, especially on Twitter, about this, of how some people say maybe they should have given the goal to CR7 because at least his hairline may have touched the ball. But when you look on the replay, I think that ball didn't touch Ronaldo. But either way, I will say that at least Ronaldo kind of fooled the Uruguayan goalkeeper a little bit there, because he thought that Ronaldo was going to hit this one and was already diving to try to make a save, but instead it wasn't meant to be. It actually goes into the back net. So in some way, for Bruno Fernandes, kind of like a random layout moment there, a little crawl shot there. I don't think he was expecting that was going to be where he opened his World Cup account by scoring a goal like that. But still, Portugal would take it. They leads at 1-0. Nunez then looked to try to get one back, or actually not get one back, but get the equalizer for Uruguay, but he hits it right to Costa. And I thought Uruguay, they were started summing some attacking subs. Again, they were still looking good in this one. They had some chances. They create some chances and look to try to get the equalizer. There was a shout for a penalty for Portugal that was not given. The game really started to kind of come alive for both teams. So for part of this game, it was kind of a little bit slow pace, and then it really kicked in to high gear, and that does not favor Portugal, because the last thing you want is that you're holding on to a slim 1-0 lead, and you go into kind of a track meet game against Uruguay that they don't mind of trying to go through that game, knowing that they desperately need a goal. In fact, they came so close of getting the equalizer in the 75th minute if it wasn't for the post or the post that Gomez just absolutely smacked on the curler. Then Luis Suarez hits one into the side netting before Costa denied Akuto as he went through on goal, and Uruguay was just pushing for the equalizer. They were piling the pressure. They were knocking on the Portuguese door, and Portugal was on the ropes. Like, it was a matter of time. You would think that Uruguay was going to equalize, but then in the 83rd minute, after Leao puts it wide from close range, Portugal gets a penalty, and this time the penalty was given due to the fact that VAR feels that Jimenez handballed this one in the box, and this is definitely really harsh, but at the same time I think it's the right call, because the harsh thing about this is that Jimenez was kind of diving to trying to make the tackle, but he didn't do so, and then as he was diving down to the ground, his hand hits the ball. I mean, I don't know if he was meant to do that, but in the laws of the game, I mean, when you basically do that, that's still considered a handball, especially with him kind of touch there. So yeah, very unfortunate there from Jimenez to give up the penalty. And also up to that point, CR7 was actually subbed off in this game, so somebody had to take the penalty for Portugal, and it's Bruno Fernandes, the one that takes the penalty. I mean, that's not a big surprise, because he is the main penalty kick taker for Manchester United, and he buries it in this one to give Portugal the 2-0 lead to pretty much kill this game off. He tried to go for a hat-trick in the 9th minute, but the post was not having any of it. And yeah, in the end, Portugal was able to win 2-0 against Uruguay, and the shots in this one, 15 shots with 11 that Uruguay has. Both teams had 3 shots on goal. Both teams had 6 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked with a 6 that Portugal has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Uruguay has in this game. And like I said, with this win, Portugal joined Brazil of moving on into the next round. So it's definitely a great day for the Portuguese-speaking kind of country, with both of these Portuguese-speaking country moving on into the knockout stage. But for Uruguay, like I said, in the next game they face a must-win game against Ghana, and I know it's not going to be easy, because like I said, Ghana, they know they're out for blood. Like they're definitely want some revenge and want some retribution of what happened in that 2010 World Cup in the quarterfinal, where they felt they got cheated, and that it's going to be a very interesting match when that of course does happen. And so is kind of the case heading into the final group stage, because we're now getting to a point where starting tomorrow there's going to be no more early games. So certainly good news for the people in the East Coast, and maybe even the West Coast too, where you don't have to wake up like 2 in the morning to of course watch some of these games. But yeah, it's going to be madness, and I know for sure tomorrow the big talking point is going to be the game between Iran versus the U.S. And I'm not going to get to the political part of it, because I know it's sad that you know, coming into this game, the big talking point isn't actually about how the U.S. going to play against Iran, but more to do with the political standpoint that is going on right now, and that you know, hopefully after that game is over, there's not going to be any bad blood that's going to happen, but don't be surprised it could be the case, because of all the controversy that we knew that we were going to deal with coming into this game when both of these teams face off against each other. And now it's up even more because of the recent situation and the recent flag controversy that happened. And not to mention, it's a do or die for both of the team that's looking to move on into the next round. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.